Morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining today us in this wonderful webinar. It is so good to have you here, and today we're going to talk about one of the most interesting topics and the topic that we received the most questions about. It's the AI-powered consultation process and overall compliance. All the interviews students might have to go through in order to come to the UK to study at our wonderful Canterbury Christchurch University. Do let me know in the chat function where you're coming from today, which country located in. It would be lovely to see. Meanwhile, the Q&A section is going to be open throughout the whole webinar, so please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A section. That's the Q&A section, not the chat option. Now we're going to try to answer all your questions throughout the webinar. And for any questions still unanswered, we will answer them at the end of the webinar. So today, I am very excited to speak about Canterbury Christchurch University, located in Kent, England. It's our premium partner. I love working with this university. It has just such a vibrant community in such a beautiful part of England. And students always come and graduate with smiles. So it's a wonderful, wonderful partner to work with. But today, we're going to talk about the updates in the in-uni consultation process, the purpose of the consultation, what to expect, understand the interview outcomes and the next steps. So what happens if the student passes, fails, precasts, etc. Common credibility and compliance concerns, guidance on preparing and supporting students efficiently, and overview of the precast assessment process. We're also going to have a brief overview of potential UKVI interviews and a Q&A section. And today also, I'm very excited because my colleague from compliance, Omkar, is joining us today on this webinar as well, who will later walk you through and show how does it look from the student perspective to actually join the consultation. Hi, Omkar.
Hi, Sola. Thank you so much. And nice to see everybody. I see we have about 55 participants and more coming in.
Wonderful. Thank you, Omkar. Happy to have you here. So let's start. Let's start by understanding the interview process and how many interviews a student might encounter in their student journey to UK. So there's 4 interviews, but it doesn't mean that a student will have to go through all 4. It highly depends on the region the student's coming from, what course they apply, what level of studies it is, also students' previous background information. Now, more interviews does not automatically mean that the student is more likely to be failed or not accepted to the university. More interviews just means that the student profile showed that they might need it. So what are the interview types? Number 1 is the consultation. So that's a consultation by a uni, which comes before the precast interview. And that's the one we're going to concentrate the most during today. So it's an initial discussion about the student's background, study plans, and suitability. However, it has quite a few benefits before the students go to precast or UKVI interview, because it's also tailored to help students prepare and practice before the big interviews. Well, bigger interviews, if you may. The second one is the precast interview. So that's conducted by the university, and we're also going to speak about it today slightly. It confirms you are a genuine student before CAS issued. There might also be an academic interview, although rare and only for a certain amount of courses at Canterbury Christchurch University, but these interviews assess a student's academic preparedness and subject knowledge. And depending on which region the students are coming from, an overall profile student might also get the dreaded UKVI interview. I'm saying dreaded because we speak with students every day, and I see that students are sometimes nervous. Hopefully, with this webinar, we can help your students prepare so they would be a bit less nervous, because really all these interviews are connected. So preparing for one interview means that the students are prepared for all 4. And although we don't know if all interviews will be needed throughout the student journey, it's better to be prepared and understand what are they than to be caught by surprise out of nowhere. And now let's go to the very, very exciting update about the in-uni consultation process. So just a reminder, what is in-uni suitability? So it's an AI-powered consultation that replaces a human-led consultation. And students must complete the in-uni stability session to move forward. However, recently we listened to your feedback and there are really exciting changes that are already in place, and some of you and your students might have already worked with it. How it looks real time, Wamker is going to later walk you through to literally see the whole consultation process and how it looks from the student's perspective. But what's new? So we got your feedback, we listened, and now in order to get to the in-uni consultation, students need to, on the same link, upload their SOP and CV. What happens then? Once they upload their SOP and CV, the AI tool scans both of the documents for any university requirements, such as is the university name written correctly? Are they not too vague? Is any information missing? Is any information between the SOP or CV not matching? And then the tool's going to give students feedback on the documents. And students will be able to edit the documents real time to fit the university requirements. Once the documents are accepted, that's when the students go to the very exciting next step. And that's something also we've been hearing from the market as a need and a want really from both the students and our lovely partners is the preparation cards. So the students are going to go through the preparation cards where they can see details about the university. So exciting USPs of Canterbury Christchurch University, a bit about finances, how much is the living expenses, etc. How does CAS work? How is the whole visa journey work? And also a bit about UK and living in the United Kingdom. After the cards, the students will have the AI-led interview. So that's up to 10 questions. Rarely is it 10 though, it's usually around 7, where students are going to have an AI-led interview. We're going to speak about it a bit more later of how that actually looks. And then the evaluation. So the interviews are then evaluated, and we're going to speak about how and the outcomes later in this webinar as well. So what is the purpose and why it was introduced? As we already spoke, it's the SOP checker and CV checker, which is going to streamline the process significantly, at the same time giving the students the cards to prepare. But really, it's also due to rising UKVI scrutiny of student visa applications. We want to support you and your students throughout this whole journey so students would be more prepared and more confident going into these interviews. And it standardizes the assessment. So every student, every market, same assessment. It improves the SOP quality, and it gives us the greater consistency in accepting documents. So what to expect from the in-uni consultation? How does the full process look like? So number one, when the student receives a COA, a link to the consultation is sent within 24 hours, often quicker, but usually within 24 hours. It's active for 2 weeks. So when students receive the link to complete a consultation, they have 14 days. So that's 2 weeks to complete the consultation. After that, the link expires. They will need to consent to the terms and conditions, and then they will need to upload their CV and SOP. While it can be in PDF format, we highly recommend that it's in Word document because it loads quicker, it looks better, and the system will just perform slightly better if it's in Word document. Now then the tool reviews SOP and CV and then and gives students feedback on the documents. And then students can adjust it real time for the document to fit the requirements. Then they go to the preparation cards, which is 5 tabs about triple CU, about visa and visa journey, student finances, and even a little bit of Q&A strategy of how to answer questions, what's the best way to approach precast, etc. There's also an ID check, so students still need to bring their passports. And that's when the AI interview takes place, which is a video credibility assessment. And then the students get an outcome within 24 hours, and that's either pass, so consultation fail, or second attempt. What which outcome means and how to go about it, we'll speak later in the presentation. But now I think it's the part that everyone's waiting for the most, and it's how does the tool actually look like from the student's perspective? And Omkar, I'm going to give it to you to walk everyone through this.
Thank you so much, Ola. And honestly, with the explanation that you gave earlier with all the cards, I think everybody should already have a visual on how this looks like. So this is what the student would see when they click on the interview link. We highly recommend using a browser and in a laptop or a computer and not your mobile phones. The link may work in some mobile phones, but the tool is not really optimized for that. So we highly recommend using a laptop or a desktop PC only. And as you can see, this is the first thing that a student sees. They would see a disclaimer and privacy notice and a student declaration. So your student will need to read this very carefully before accepting the privacy notice as well as the student declaration. I do not just read through it like terms and conditions before you're installing a software. So just go through that very carefully and then move on to the next screen. So this is where the student will be able to put in their details, right? Their full name, and their student ID, their date of birth, the university that they're applying for, which here in this case is Canterbury Christchurch University, and the course name. You'll also see options to upload your CV and SOP. So this is what is different from the previous tool. So the students can directly click on choose file, and that should open another window on their computer screen. And they can select the files for their CV and SOP and upload them directly into the tool. And so, next slide, please.
Before we go to the next slide, I think one of the most common questions we get here is what if the CV or SOP is not a requirement for the course chosen, especially the CV? While the SOP is requirement for all the courses for Triple CU, CV is not. If CV is not a requirement, the moment students select the course they're applying for, the tool will not ask to upload the CV and the students will be able to progress without uploading it. But Omkar, there's another question we constantly get here, and it's what if a student makes a mistake? Let's say they put a wrong student number. Will that make their consultation a void?
No, it will not, but it does make our job slightly more difficult because we will have to manually check for the student, right, using their email ID, passport number, their names. So it just makes it slightly more difficult, but it does not make the interview, void or it doesn't stop the student's progression.
So in many cases, when the students just do one mistake or two, we're still able to allocate the interview to the student file. However, we do ask that the students put the correct information here, as that means quicker processing time and quicker allocation as well. Wonderful. Thank you, Omka. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay. Thank you. So once you've uploaded both your CV and SOP, you will see the feedback for your SOP, which is here on the right hand side of the screen, where it'll tell you exactly what the SOP that you've uploaded is missing, or what is the information that is missing, or what better wording or phrasing can be used. And then on the left hand side, you can see where it says your statement of purpose draft. So this is where you can make your live edits. So you can look at your feedback on the right hand side and you can just make those edits on the left. It just makes it that much easier. Right? You don't have to download it, go back, change it, and then upload it and start the session again. You can directly do it there. You update your draft, you just do a quick review, and you also have an option to download it to your own personal device, or you can just click on submit for review, and then that should take you to the next screen. But in case if even after your first draft, there are times when your first draft is still may have some more misses. So the tool does give another chance, right? So I believe it gives up to three chances for the student to make the edits. So that should, by the end of it, the student should be able to give a very good SOP, and that can go for submission for review. Right. Thank you. So this is after, as soon as the SOP is accepted, the student would directly see the preparation cards. Right, so I already spoke about this a little bit earlier. Now, preparation cards are not your main research points, right? This is something that is going to help you quickly uh, look at things just before the consultation. Right? This is not where you go to do the full research. Right? This is like quickly reviewing your notes just before the examination. This is not something that you use as study material. This just to do a quick memory check and refresher just before the consultation. And you'll have different cards that you can see here, right? In different sections, you'll have information about the city, the course, uh, about the university, and as well as a few information related to the visa. And as soon as you can spend some time here, I do recommend that the student spends as much time as they can. The session should work as long as they have good network connection. It should not break down. So it's highly recommended the student goes through the cards very carefully, they read it, they understand it, and they do their own research, of course. And then that's when they can proceed to the equipment or the camera check. Right, so this is just a camera check. And here, if the student has multiple webcams, sometimes like I do, I have my own laptop webcam, then I tend to have additional external webcams connected. If that's the case, they can select the drop down and choose the equipment that they have, and they can do the check. Here, of course, you see a black screen because this is just for the presentation purposes, but in the student's view, they would be looking at their own camera view. And once they see everything's clear and the green bar that you see, that's actually the microphone picking up your voice. So the higher that you see is the stronger the microphone signal. So if you're seeing that the green bar not progressing much or it's not picking up the voice, it just means the microphone might not be working. So they can just quickly check for that. Right. So as soon as you do the check,
Omkar, I believe on this page,
Mhm.
there's also the passport check happening.
Correct. So as soon as this is done, as soon as you finish your camera check, you see a passport screen. So this is where you do your passport check. So the tool tells you exactly where to hold the passport. There is going to be a green frame within your camera view. You just have to hold your passport within that section so that the tool can capture it easily. And as soon as that's completed, the tool will also ask you to take a selfie. Now you'll be taking the selfie from the webcam that you're on, obviously not your mobile phone. But yeah, so that's how that works. And then the tool matches your face to the passport. And that's when you'll be able to proceed to the interview. So this is where your interview section is about to start. So just before your actual interview, you will have to do your room assessment. So this is to do a quick show or scan of your room. So all the student has to do is just pick up the laptop or the webcam and do a slow scan of the room. Right, so we just recommend doing a very quick, slow, just to show the surroundings. Just to show that there's nobody else present in the room when the student is taking the assessment, and there's nobody or there's no notes or anything like that. So this generally takes about 20 to 30 seconds. Right, this you can see the timer on the screen, and once the assessment is completed, the tool directly starts with the interview.
Wonderful, Omkar. Thank you so much for getting us through the tool and how it looks from the student perspective. For everyone joining this call today, just a reminder that the Q&A section is open. So if you do have any questions, kindly put them in the Q&A section and we will be taking them throughout this webinar as well as at the end of the webinar. So just key reminders regarding the AI consultation. So the link is valid for 14 days from issue. So the moment students receive the link is going to be valid for 2 weeks. So they need to complete it quite promptly. SOP must be generally authored. So AI tool may support editing, but it doesn't generate the SOP for the students. The students still need to write their own SOP and upload it to the tool. And then on the tool, they will able to adjust it according to university requirements. Also, just a reminder that all SOPs for Canterbury Christchurch University to be free of plagiarism and should not be written by AI. Both due to both of these reasons, SOP can be rejected. Now, the passport is required. That's also a really important one. Identity verification is mandatory, and students must hold the original passport clearly, and it cannot be a photocopy. It needs to be an original passport in a well-lit room with no glare to ensure smooth passport verification. Second attempts, we're going to speak about it slightly later, but what happens if a student does get a second attempt? That would mean usually a human-led consultation. However, in some cases, there might be just a new link issued, in which cases it will happen. We will speak about later. And students then and yourselves, our partners, will receive the outcome of the consultation within 48 hours of the consultation taking place. I almost said 24 hours because that's our current SLA. Usually we are able to send it out within 24 hours. However, closer to the intake, when the volumes grow, it might grow as well to 48, back to 48 hours. And for existing pipeline, if by any chance your students applied for previous intakes and already had their SOP or CV already accepted, that means that the students would get an old link and would not need to submit the new documents. But this goes only for the students where the documents have already been accepted. Let's go to the next one. So the question I've been referencing the most. So what are the possible outcomes of the AI in uni consultation? So pass, the best one, and I'm hoping that all of your students are gonna get this one. Student progresses to the next stages. They're more prepared for the precast interview. They're more confident, and they continue progressing. Now, at the same time, we're going to notify both the students and the agents of the pass outcome. And in some cases, if we saw that the student was good, they passed the consultation, but we see that there could be areas of improvement, perhaps for the precast interview or the visa interview or overall student journey. If we see that the student is just lacking research somewhere, we will provide this feedback as well. Although the student will be passed, we'll just provide a feedback that you passed the consultation, but it would be great if before the next student steps, you would do more research on A, B, or C. Now, the second outcome is fail. So that means that the student cannot progress in this application cycle. Again, students and agents are informed within 48 hours, and there's a detailed feedback provided of why the student has failed. Now, there's also second attempts. Mostly they are human-led consultations, although in some cases there might be just a second link issued. Um, it's usually triggered by students who are genuine, have brilliant communication skills, has done quite a good research, but are lacking on quite a few areas, and we're worried that they might not pass the precast interview or the UKVI interview. In this case, another interview is given to students as a support to prepare a bit more before the next steps. Again, a full feedback on what the students should prepare will be sent to both the agents and the students directly. And the rarest one really is if the student passes the consultation part, so the video interview part, but the documents do not meet the requirements fully. In that case, compliance team would contact the student directly, asking to make changes on the document. Although we haven't had a case yet, it is a slight chance that there might be a case, especially if the SOP had a high AI percentage content. Now going to the next slide, so common credibility and compliance concerns. So what are the most common red flags we identify mistakes students perhaps do? So as mentioned quite a few times throughout this webinar, it's the high AI generated SOP content. So submissions of around 30% AI content are auto-flagged. The SOP must reflect the student's own voice, experience, and intent. Also vague and templated SOPs, while again, they will have the ability to adjust the SOP to this issue during the tool. It's better if they already come with SOPs that are strong. I think one of the most common rejection reasons is the financial awareness gap. So this is the most common for both precast, UKVI, and AI consultation. So students unable to articulate funding source, maintenance requirements, or CAS amounts can raise concerns about the genuine study intent. It's also the inconsistency between the documents. We always say if the student uploads any type of document, be it SOP, CV, transcript, certificates, they should be able to speak about a document when asked. While it's incredibly rare for them to be asked about it during AI consultation, but it might happen in precast interviews. Poor interview engagement, so one-word answers, inability to explain academic background or career goals, or lack of awareness about triple CU or UK, it poses serious credibility flags. Now, how to prepare and what's the topics of the interview students might encounter, we're going to speak a bit later. And last but not least, it's a lack of university and program knowledge. So not knowing basic facts about triple CU, Canterbury or chosen programs suggests that the applicants may not be student-led. So, what can you as agents do to help your students throughout this journey? And if by any chance you are a student joining us today, what can you do to prepare better? So, ensure the CV and SOP are prepared before clicking the AI link. Advise a quiet, well-lit room with stable internet. Very underlooked one because it really helps even the students concentrate more. Encourage review of all 5 prep cards before the interview, but don't rely on it completely. So while in the new tool, students will be supported with some facts about the university, etc., it cannot be the main source of the information the students are coming to the consultation. Remind the students to have their passport ready for the ID check. Advise full sentence responses, not one-word answers. We have quite a few students that go into an interview and just answer every question with yes and no. That's insufficient for any type of interview, consultation, precast, or visa. So I often get the question, long answers are bad, short answers are bad. So how are students supposed to navigate this? So for any of the 3 interviews, my advice is always 2 to 3 sentences. And we advise students always to practice a bit, uh, but try not to speak about your whole life journey in just one answer. Make it short enough, not to expand too much, but also not too short so the students would give enough information for the assessment. Help the students understand their CV and discuss it with confidence, and encourage general personal writing. AI feedback guides doesn't replace. So what we shouldn't do, write or heavily edit the student's SOP on their behalf, coach the students with scripted answers for the AI interview. I'm going to stop a bit on the first one. Write or heavily edit the student's SOP on their behalf. Now, in both AI consultation by an uni and the precast interview, one of the main topics are the topics that students also wrote on their SOP about. During the precast interview, the interviewer will have the SOP open, ready, and read when the student speaks. We really don't want the situations where students are rejected because they haven't read their SOP. Now, coach the students with scripted answers for AI interview. Now, we spoke many times in many previous webinars that scripted answers are the main reason students fail interviews, and especially UKVI interviews. Scripted students are the first ones to get rejected, and the highest percentage of UKVI visa fails. Now, why? How can a scripted answer actually be viewed and found by the interview officer? When you do so many interviews per day, I think Omkar's team does thousands of interviews really per month. The student opens their mouths and we can hear it from the first sentence. You get used to it. And so do the visa officers, and so do the precast interview officers. It's just very, very visible. I always like to say that there's a reason actors are paid so much and loved worldwide. That's because getting a script and selling it as your own words requires a lot of acting skills. And while some students might have it, it's definitely not the majority. It also stops students from having a normal conversation because remember, every single interview that we talked about today is a conversation. It's not a test. And if students treat it as a test instead of holding a conversation, that will be marked down as poor English or poor communication. It's a conversation, and students should be able to hold a conversation. Now, going to the next point, submit application without the student's full awareness. So make sure that if you're helping the student is fully aware of how you're helping students and they're not fully lost in the application journey. And allow students to complete the assessment without others present. So if you can allow the students a calm place, perhaps in your office, etc., that is encouraged as well. So that was the in uni AI consultation and the new process, but now let's go quickly through the pre-CAS assessment by Canterbury Christchurch University. So as you probably already know, there's the second interview, which is the pre-CAS interview at Canterbury Christchurch University. It's conducted by CCCU's admissions team and happens after your offer, but before the pre-CAS process starts. It's short, usually around 10 to 20 minutes in length. By the way, so is the AI consultation. So all the consultations are usually under 20 minutes. However, it really depends on the students as well, on how long the consultations take. Some students tend to talk a bit longer. Some students tend to have a bit longer answers, while others will have shorter ones. But really, I'd say it's around 10 to 20 minutes. So why do the precast interviews take place? So it's Canterbury Christchurch time to meet the applicant to understand why they chosen a CCCU and the course of study. And the university also has a duty to ensure that all students who join for study have genuine intention to study while they're at the university in the UK. So what happens during the precast interview? So there's a short set of questions, usually 5 to 7 questions, but there might be follow-up ones. And the questions are picked randomly. There's no script. So if you're asking me what they're going to be asked, really many questions are improvised, so they might vary. And again, follow-up questions might be asked. That's again why it's really, really important that students are not scripted. Questions are usually about why Canterbury Christchurch University, the chosen course, career goals, and post-study work plans. So they're quite standard interview questions. One thing to remember, which is really important, is that students should really, really not skip a scheduled precast interview. If they schedule an interview and do not attend without informing the university, they might miss the chance to attend the university for this cycle and would have to reapply for the next intake. So if they really cannot join, make sure that the students do email the university to let them know. Otherwise, they might lose the opportunity to precast interview. And now potential UKVI interviews. So that's the credibility interviews by UKVI. Um, it's to assess whether a student is genuine applicant with clear academic intentions and plan to study in the UK. We're gonna go through the topics of what the students might be asked, but really these topics, and it's also quite a common question I have from everyone, are the conversations, questions, and topics different from AI consultation, precast interview, and UKVI interview? No. So the topics are similar. So if you're preparing for one interview, you're preparing for all three, really. So what are the common questions and topics? And I know that our partners love taking screenshots of this slide because it's a perfect one to share to students whenever a student asks. So if there's no set questions and no script, how do I actually prepare for these interviews? How do I know what topics, what questions to prepare for? Now, this slide sums it up. Here are the most common questions and topics students will be asked about or might be asked about. And this is a slide students can also practice with to see if they covered all areas of research. So number one, about yourself. So students should be able to speak about their education background, study gaps, if there's any reasons why the study gap has taken and why did they decided to come back to studies now, as well as their previous work experience. And overall thinking about this topic, how all of this information connects to the course they're currently applying for and their future plans. Now, the course choice is also extremely important. So why did they choose the course? What will they learn? For example, modules. And then the most common questions: does my student need to learn all the modules by heart? So all the names as a list? No, absolutely not. The students do not need to go to the website, find modules, and learn whatever number of modules by heart just to say the names. That's not needed. But what students should do is read what modules are available. Think perhaps what's the module that interests them the most? What's the module that is different from what other universities offer, etc. So they don't need to learn it by heart. They need to speak about it slightly and understand it. So how does the course matches your previous studies, especially if it's a postgraduate degree? And what skills are students expecting to gain from studying this course? Now, university choice is also really important. So why this university? Why not a different university? Also, location awareness. So, where is the university located? And facilities or strengths of the university. Here, my biggest advice is to avoid generic answers. Generic answers is also one of the main reasons we see rejections in the pre-CAS and UKVI interviews. Why? And what is a generic answer? So if a student, let's say, says, I chose Canterbury Christchurch University because it has a big library. Really, show me a university in the UK that doesn't have a big library. So generic answers are answers that could fit any university, any country, and really any choice of the student. Therefore, generic answers show as research not done. And I love to say that common knowledge and thinking quick on your feet will get you far in life. UKVI credibility interview, precast interviews are not a point where students can go without research and just a quick wit. Research must be done in order to pass these interviews. Now, choice of UK. Why UK instead of other countries? So students should be prepared to compare UK education system to a few other countries around the world, um, and going back as well, university to other universities, understanding the education system, graduate visa awareness, and work rules for the students. Finances are also a really, really important one. We spoke about it previously slightly, but who is sponsoring the student if the students are not paying this themselves? What is the source of fund? Tuition and living cost awareness and payment plan understanding. So I sometimes get a question from students, well, perhaps not a question, but a comment, that these questions feel a bit too personal, but really, if your KVI visa officer asks you about finances, asks students about finances, they should be speaking openly as this is a legal requirement as well. Now, the most common mistakes we hear students do when speaking about their finances. It's especially younger students going for an undergraduate degree. When asked about finances, they have the answer of, I'm not sure because my parents are sponsoring me. While it's absolutely okay that parents are sponsoring the student, it's still the student's future that is being invested in. So students should understand how much is invested really in their future. So that's tuition fees, living expenses, etc. Another thing, students should be prepared to speak in British pounds and not local currency. We see situations when students in UKVI interview, for example, speaks about tuition fees in their local currency, and then the visa officer asks, and how much is that in British pounds? And that's when the students choke. So really, they should be prepared to speak in British pounds. Now, future plans are also really important. So job role after graduating, industry the students want to enter, and how will this degree help in this career? And also plans in home country after returning to home country after studying. So these are really the main topics of the interview. I know it feels like a lot. I know it looks like a lot, but really by preparing for one topic, often students prepare for many of them. Quite a common question I also get is, where do I do the research? So where should the students do research? There's no right and wrong answer. If a students have a preferred method of research, just allow them. If they get most of their knowledge on social media, I have now in the background our beautiful marketing team joining us today, and they are constantly making sure that the information is everywhere on social media, as well as YouTube, perhaps LinkedIn, or perhaps website, or perhaps Google. There's really no wrong answer of where students should look for information as long as they do the research independently. Now, at the same time, when they do go to the AI in uni consultation, they will have the flashcards now. So there will be the main facts there as well. Although it cannot be the main source of information if students forgot to do research on one part or another, or really their memory just failing them that day, which happens to the best of us, that's where they can review the information as well. So before we go to the Q&A section, just the last few words from me. So how to succeed in any interview, be it a consultation, UKVI, or precast, or even a job interview, really any interview in your life. Be genuine, not scripted. Give honest reasons for choosing university, course. Treat the interview as conversation and not a test. Students should know the courses they're about to study, understand the modules, how the course aligns with the academic and professional goals, and they should come prepared. Have passport supporting documents ready, be confident, composed, and authentic. Now, this will help them attend the interview and feel a lot more confident, and hopefully, with that, increase their chances of success. And now we're gonna go to the Q&A section. I know my colleague Omkar was already answering your questions throughout this webinar, but let's see um, if there's still any. Moment. So one of the questions asked throughout the session, I think it's a good one to take it out loud as well, is where is AI interview happening and is it in Cash Shield? Omkar, would you like to answer this to the crowd, please?
Sure, Salah. So I've also typed out or replied to the questions related to interview. So this will not be happening in Cash Shield. The link will be sent to the student, and it just opens a new window. I'm sorry, a new website on their browser, and they can honestly do this at any time. And as long as they have an environment where it's silent, they can just do it. But it does not happen in Cash Shield.
Wonderful, thank you. And if the student fails the first attempt of a consultation, will they be allowed a second attempt?
So this one, as I said, this is going to be more case by case situation, but our all of our outcomes are carefully reviewed and go through multiple stages of review. It's just not one person looking at the interview and giving the final decision. There's multiple people, like the one of the team members initially reviews the recording, and there's me who reviews the decision, and then also Saula reviews some of the decisions, and that's when the final outcome is sent. But if there's a situation where the agent or the recruiter believes that the student uh, has improved, has done more research, has improved in the communication, and they want to raise it with the compliance team, they can, of course, do that. They can raise it directly with the compliance team, and we will review that, case by case.
Wonderful, thank you, Omkar. And just to add here, um, if the student does fail either the consultation or precast interview, they will get reasons for fail emailed to them, and as well you are our lovely partners, so you will see the main reason why it happens, and as well with the second attempts you would see why the decision was taken. And how is the system now, Omkar? Will the consultation link be sent directly to the students or they need to book it?
So it will be sent directly to the students. There is no need to book it separately.
Okay, wonderful. So I see quite a repetitive question, and that's will the PowerPoint and the recording be shared? Yes, it will. Everyone that has registered for this webinar will get both the PPT and the recording. Let's go to the next question. Moment while I go through what's submitted and what's already not yet not answered. Um, So I think quite a common one as well is regarding the SOP and CV. As already mentioned, if the CV is not required for the course of student application, the moment they will select the course they are applying for, and if the CV is not a requirement, that's when the field is going to disappear from the screen and they will not need to upload it anymore. Omkar, there's a question if there's any common technical issues that perhaps students are facing and how can they go around it?
Sure. Some of the common issues would, of course, be your internet issues or your webcam not working. So this is usually happening at the student's end, either due to a slow network connectivity, and best recommended options would be, moving closer to the router or switching over to a stronger network, and, making sure there's sometimes a lot of glare that's falling, on the student's video. That's either due to an dirty lens or because of lighting issue as well. And that does impact the student when they're doing the passport check, because this tool cannot see the passport clearly or will not be able to recognize the face clearly. So just very carefully look at, the lighting, because the student will be able to see their own view. So just carefully analyze that, and, make sure that you're sitting in a decent lighting and there's not a lot of glare falling in, and, you have a clean lens and a good network connection. And other than that, there shouldn't really be any other technical issues. Sometimes the student may not see their video or microphone working, even though they have very good equipment. This could most likely be that they've not given permissions to the tool to view the camera and the microphone. So when the student opens the link, they should see a pop-up on the top left screen. On the top left area is where the tool asks for permissions, and they will need to allow for permissions, and that's when the tool will be able to see and hear the student.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Omkar. Hope that helps. But also just a reminder that when we do send students the AI consultation link, what we also attach is a quick PDF guide to the most common technical issues faced. So students all over the world, if they have a bit less proficiency in perhaps technical skills, they will have that support. But also our team is always available for any questions. And if we see students struggling, we do reach out ourselves. But at the same time, they do have our email to reach out as well. Now, there's a question of the validity of the AI consultation link. So from the moment student receives the link, it is valid for 2 weeks. So that's 14 days, including non-working days, including the weekends. But the beauty about it is that it doesn't matter the time zone students are in because the link is valid 24/7. So that means if a student wants to take it at 3 a.m. in the morning, their time, or 5 a.m. in the morning, UK time, they're able to do so. They do not need to wait for standard working hours or for a working day. So it will not impact their jobs. It will not impact their current careers. It will not impact their current studies if they're in, because really they can take it on the weekends, they can take it before, after work, etc. And honestly, after looking at our records, we see that majority of our students choose to do it out of regular working hours, and we're really, really glad that students are using this opportunity. Now, another question that I can see is at what point of the student journey the link is received. So the moment students receive a conditional offer letter, on a conditional offer letter, it will be written that you will receive the link within 24 hours. And that's exactly what happens. Students receive the link 24 hours after the conditional offer. And as we're running out of time, I'm just going to go to the very last question to Omkar. Omkar, is there any advice that you have for anyone currently preparing for any of the three interviews that perhaps to a nervous student?
Right. So honestly, my best advice would be, do not overthink it. Right? The assessment is not a test of abilities or skills. This is more of an understanding to just understand your intentions and your reasons to travel abroad, and, and why are you choosing this specific university and course. So so that's more of a conversation. Right? So this is not testing your memory or your abilities in any way. So as long as you are just explaining that, you should be good. And always remember, there's no right or wrong answer, right? There's just there's just your answer, and that's what you stick to.
Wonderful. And it's a good reminder that if a student at any given point answers as I don't know to any question, that does not mean an automatic fail. Many times, students that say I don't know to a question or two still passed all three interviews. That's only human to not be prepared about something they didn't expect, but to lie or to create answers on the spot, that's when they start failing a bit. There's one last question I'll take, and it's is the precast interview also an AI consultation? No. So the precast interview is a different interview from the AI consultation. It's taken by the university representative, and it's a human-led interview. Now, as we're coming to the end, I see that there's still a few questions that haven't been answered. We have your details, and we will try to answer to all the questions after the webinar as well. So keep your eyes peeled to your inboxes. But for now, thank you everyone so much for joining today. It was an absolute pleasure having such a big crowd today to talk about all the interviews of the UK. I hope all the success possible. And thank you very much for attending and looking forward to seeing your students at Canterbury Christ Church University. Thank you all. Take care and have a good day.